So today I'll give you a quick lesson. I'm going to talk about pre-launching. I own a company called BookDaddy, and we have a #1 Amazon bestseller guarantee for books. And we have private clients where we act as their publisher and also helping them finish the book and launch the book. And I'll just give a quick lesson on how this works, is that on Amazon, and I'm going to apply this to how you launch apps as well. And also this applies to raising money. So on Amazon, you can say, okay, I'm launching. This applies to my wife is a music producer and she'll do a pre-launch on Beatport as well. So let's say you launch 2 weeks from now. And what you do is you have pre-orders. So you have pre-orders, do a little marketing campaign. And if you have the right keywords and the right category, you really only have to have maybe 20, 30, 50 sales. Let's say you can get 20 sales in this 2 week period, you can be a #1 bestseller. I'm not going to get into the reason for this, but basically they have a lot of different categories and they want you to become a bestseller so that you feel good and then you can do marketing in the future being a #1 bestseller. This happens in the book publishing world, which is my world, but you have to do pre-orders. So there's something similar. I've noticed a problem with a lot of you guys. I've talked about this before, but you have Famous as your essentially coding front end. And a lot of you guys can do really cool front ends, but sometimes you get hung up on the super base or the integrations with OpenAI. We've talked about this before, but whenever something happens on your app, whether it's a mobile app or a web app, basically Famous, whatever's happening on the front end, will go into Superbase, which is your memory, and then it will say, oh, okay, I gathered this information about this user, and then they want this thing. This is OpenAI is essentially the brain, and then it will go back into the app and it will actually perform the function that you want. This is the flywheel, if you will. So you have Famous building the code for the user experience, which is just a fancy way of saying what does it look like and what does it do? And a lot of times I see you guys getting stuck with the Superbase or the OpenAI. So this, I think, slows people down. And I've given this lesson before, which this is how success looks. A lot of times it's like this. You guys see this in stories all the time where this is year one and then this is year two or month one or month two, however you want to do it. Then you have over time and then eventually it works and then it goes crazy. And so in business, we call this product market fit or scaling. Once you have product market fit, there's this inflection point here. But a lot of times what's happening with Famous is that a lot of you guys are, oh, I can build something, which is impossible 2 years ago. Then maybe you can build a really nice front end. Front end just means the user interface and what it looks like. And then maybe you can get user profiles, something basic like that. And maybe you can get the dummy data to work. But then once you want it to really do exactly precisely what you want, maybe you get to this point and you're really only maybe 2 or 3 steps away, it becomes really difficult. And you guys know me, I'm a straight shooter, I'm a truth teller. That's fine. That's welcome to the reality of business. It's the AI agency, start a local cafe, start a pizza shop, start a consulting firm, whatever you're going to start, there's going to be something that's difficult. The grass is always greener. So at this point, a lot of times people will stop, they'll quit. And I'm not going to give a big lesson on mindset and why you should keep going because that's up to you. If you're the type of person that's going to keep on going, you're going to keep on going. But here's a way to force yourself to keep going, tricking yourself. And this is, I'm going to talk about pre-launching. So to get over this difficulty and force yourself into it, let's think of the way, how do you guys think you could force yourself to finish it with a pre-launch? I'm going to give you a couple steps for how to do it. So here's what I'm going to suggest. I'll give you more details here. If you guys have been with me a lot, you guys know that I have this standard way of approaching a landing page, such that I'll probably just copy and paste it. So you have this standard sales page. I'm just going to copy it over here. And there's more advanced versions and you can add different things, whatever, it's no big deal. But at the end of the day, you're going to have this little landing page. And what do you need in a landing page? This is the basic version. But you have a headline, a subheadline, you have a little video, which you can do with AI. You have a benefits section, you have a features section, and then usually in this checkout section, I'll also add a little image. So what are you missing from launching the idea? Because the words you can do, the video you can do with that talking head. So let's say you have this idea of some app. What do you really need? You need the product. You need someone to be able to essentially log into it. But to pitch it, you could really pitch the idea. Think about this. Have you ever seen an ad for a gym that's going to be opening in 3 months? Or this happens in Europe and the Middle East a lot more than the United States, but they'll have an ad for a community that's opening up for some real estate company, some developer firm will say, oh, we're going to have this community and we're pre-selling the townhouses or whatever. They're not even built yet. This happens with real estate a lot. So you can do the same thing. And what you really need, it's really this simple, is you need, I'm going to break it down for you. You need images. So you need a benefits image because this is what makes it real. You need a benefits image, you need a features image, and then you need a product image and a hero image. That's pretty much it. So if you can make a really nice landing page like this and a video that explains Dropbox. So you have this, you have these 4 images and the words, which you can do yourself or you can do with ChatGPT. And from there, you can just send them an email. So we've talked about this before. You can have a CRM where you have generally buckets. So this might be someone that you collect their email. This might be someone that bought. Maybe this is someone that scheduled a call. Maybe this is someone that didn't show up to a call. Maybe this is someone that purchased something more. You guys have seen this in like HubSpot, Go High Level, Trello, every CRM in the world. So you collect their email and you're just honest with them. You just say, hey, this is coming soon, and you're going to get the free version as soon as it shows up, and you get some benefit, some extra benefit. So now, you've heard me say this before, is the first thing you need to do is you need to have your unique value proposition. You need to put that into a minimum viable feature. You guys have heard me say that, minimum viable feature. So that's the thing, the reason why it exists. What's the difference between you and all the main competitors? Why are you better? To a minimum viable feature. Then you build a landing page so that it's real. You can, I usually say do the login and then the demo data with the app. Then actually connect it for real, debug, launch. So this is what I've been teaching for the last 6 weeks or so. But what I realized with just recently was that a lot of you guys have difficulty with this. Is that fair? Because this is where you're getting into Supabase and maybe you have to hire someone to help you or you need to do a lot more tutorials or something like that. And it's this kind of stuff, even though you can get to the landing page and you can get to the demo pretty easily, you can't actually hook it up. And I've talked about this in previous lessons. You either got to hire someone or you just have to put in the 50 or 100 hours necessary to figure it out. And there's really no other way around it because that's the reality of life. You either pay someone or you figure it out yourself. And it's easier than it's ever been in the history of the world, which is good news, but that doesn't mean that it's easy. It's easier. It doesn't mean that it's easy. Here's what I was thinking. I can just build something real quick. Oh, I could build a CRM. I'll show you guys what I'm doing, but I'm gonna switch over to ChatGPT. We'll see what it does. So we're coming up with the basic idea while we're doing this as well. Pipeline pulse. That's a lot. We'll start there. So we'll copy and paste that in. And then what it's going to do, it's going to build it. And then I'll ask for, so I just said, let's make a header and a footer. In the header, there should be a logo, sign in, sign up. I don't like I don't like images in the hero section, to be honest. So I told it to delete it. And then I said the footer should have terms and conditions. That's what it's doing. And I created a little prompt over here. So let's build the actual web app. What should it look like? How should the UI be organized? Come up with all the details and turn it into Famous.ai prompt. It gave a prompt, but it was way too complicated for this demo because I know it had 19 features or something, which is great. But for this, I just said make it a little bit simpler. It gave me essentially all of the different left navigation, which is usually how it is. Here's the core screens, contacts, deals, tasks, emails, settings. I'm not going through this in hardcore detail. I just want you guys to get an understanding of how I would approach this. You're going to see that in the next 15 minutes, we're going to have something that we could launch. It's not ready. It won't be ready. It won't be real, but it will be real enough that if we send traffic to it, we can collect emails. And if we collect emails, then we essentially have a potential user base that is ready to launch. And so when you inevitably get to this difficult part, which is what I was talking about earlier, when you get to that difficult part where you're, oh man, I got pretty far, but now I don't, does anyone really want this? Is it worth it? This is going to be difficult, blah, blah, blah. Now you feel a little bit more motivated to actually finish it because right now you don't have anyone. Whereas if you had 50 or 100 people that were interested over with an email list, then you're obviously going to make sure that it works. Let's create the software app. Someone clicks on sign in and should redirect them here to this app we're building. Here's the app instruction to build it. Go back to the question. It's probably going to ask me for a super base, but yeah. So if you have a specific brand in mind, there's a couple of ways of approaching this. What is brand is essentially wireframe, fonts, hex codes of the colors, and then not just font, but font style. Is it drop shadow? Is it bold? Is it italics? Is it whatever? And then usually there's some reference. So the more detail that you have this in words, but also in image references, the closer you're going to get. It's just the same thing as anything. If you hired a designer, you want to be, the more specific you are, the more specific it's going to be. But I'm always careful about if you're getting too obsessed with design, unless you're a design firm, is usually procrastination. It's got to pass the trust. Trust, I've talked about this before, but there's essentially 6 objections that people not worth the price, worth the effort, don't trust brand or the company, I should say. Trust the company, don't trust product, don't trust the salesperson, or don't trust themselves. I also call this the snowflake objection, where it works for everyone else, but it's not going to work for me because I'm special. So these are essentially the 6 major objections that people have. And if you study sales, there's a million people say, oh, I want to think about it, or I need more time, or I'm moving money around, or there's this other guy that wants something, whatever. You study sales, there's a million different things, but they usually come down to this. And you'll notice that trust, this is where design comes in. So design has to be good enough to not look like a scam. That's it. Unless you're literally a design firm. Like if you're a design firm, then you're selling design. That makes sense. Then everything that you do is a representation of how good you are. That makes sense. So then it matters a lot. If you're an influencer and you're teaching people how to be influencers or something in a certain niche, then you might want to be obsessed with the design. But a lot of times it's just procrastination. It doesn't really matter. And when I say design, I also mean if you're in luxury goods or fashion or something like that, then obviously that's design to an extent. We're still just waiting for it to build the back end. And so what I'm doing here is I'm building the back end so that I can take screenshots of it, just so you guys know. And then once I have screenshots of it, I can add those screenshots to the page. So this is why I'm doing this, by the way. So we have this CRM that we built. Looks pretty good. Yeah, not bad. It doesn't have the email, but this is good enough. So I would want to do this a little bit more advanced here, but it's I don't have much time. So here we go. We have this. So now you'll see here, I'm going to copy and paste this image, add this image as the benefits. So I took screenshots of the back end. I'll show you guys how I use deal.ai as well to come up with images. So I go here usually, and then I go to 16 by 9. I'll put this here. We'll see what it comes up with. But in the meantime, you see the image of the dashboard is like already here. I'm adding this, add another one. Now we have the features. This padding is a little bit weird, but let me find this image. Basically, if you're going to give Famous 10 things to do at once, you want to organize it. And if you want to spend the time to organize your brain and write it out in this very specific, beautiful way, then that's fine. So you see here, I'm going to say add real shot images for the custom sales. So now I have images of the actual software. I'm going to change I also made a little just behind the scenes here, just so you guys can see. So I made an image in Deal, but you can use any image. I say salesperson using a CRM, blah, 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 this little thing. So I'm going to upload this as the hero section as well. And this is the background hero section. Also change the copywriting in the hero section. Assume that CRM is not actually live, but they can join the waitlist and be the first to receive a free trial at a small email CTA where people can enter their email to join. I'm telling it to do 3 things at once. We'll see how it performs. I'm not going to actually connect it to Zapier because I'd have to go inside my UI level, but it's pretty simple. You go to this one right here. This is how you connect everything to Zapier. So what we'll have here, which is pretty cool, is this is not bad. So we've created the CRM. This is where people can be first to access the future of CRM. This is a hanging word, so I wouldn't do that. But they can essentially sign up early. Not bad, not bad. I'm gonna add a VSL image. This is the article for connecting to GHL. But you can use any CRM you want. But basically, the idea, guys, is think about this. So what do? You say, okay, let's build something. We build the front end. User profiles is 3 more prompts. And then we have dummy data. And so this is usually where people get caught. But what I want to offer you guys as an alternative is just connect email to a CRM plus get screenshots of the software. We haven't actually built it yet, but we have a general idea of it. So now it's real. Send traffic, get emails. And then what will end up happening is this will motivate you guys to figure out which admittedly is the difficult part, is getting over the hump of making it live. If anyone's done this on their own, then you'll realize that the last 5% is like the most difficult part, and then the iterations. Okay, so here we are. Be first to access the future of CRM. They put in their email. Here's a little testimonial. Here's the VSL. This is the actual screenshot of what it'll look like. Here's an actual screenshot of what it'll look like. Here's the little information. Here's an actual screenshot of what it'll look like. And then obviously it's not live, but we have a general idea of what it is. Does this make sense? So the concept here is that this only took us, I don't know, 30 minutes or something. Now to actually push it live, it might take you another 50 hours, to be honest. I'm not gonna lie, it might take a long time to debug everything and make sure everything's working smoothly. But getting to this phase in 30 minutes, all of a sudden it's real. It feels real. And you send it to your friends and you have an email list and it's okay. Now you have people that are essentially pre-ordering it. So this is an alternative to taking it to the finish line. If you have the budget, you might as well just get some data. It's going to give you good data on whether or not people are even interested in this type of thing. Now, if it's a product that's one of your, it's going to be like your life's work, it's your baby, you've done a lot of market research, you've talked to a lot of people, you're certain about it. And honestly, have people already done cafes? Have people already done pizza shops? Have people already done insurance companies? Have people already done music streaming platforms? Yeah. But is there going to be a music streaming platform that's probably better than Spotify in the next 10 years? Probably. Like everyone, do you remember LimeWire and Napster? And then there's Apple Music, and everyone go, Apple Music's going to be the big thing. And then no one really cares about Apple Music anymore, nearly as much. So there's always going to be some new guy. So let's say you spend $1,000 and it doesn't perform as well as you think. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't do it. So you got to understand what your goal is. If I'm building, which I am, by the way, I'm building a publishing company, and we've had over 40 number one bestsellers in the last year. Literally every single person that we've done has been a number one bestseller. We're getting better at it. If I send cold traffic to that site and it doesn't perform perfectly right away, which, for example, we did have a site that we spent a little bit of traffic there, and it was mildly profitable, but not like scalable profitable. Does that mean that I'm like, oh, I'm not going to do a publishing company? Because no, like my soul is in books and education and that kind of thing. And for me, throwing up something like this, getting some emails, and maybe the unit economics don't feel like they work, if it's something that I'm really passionate about and I want to do, then that's not going to stop me. That's not going to stop me from continuing. So just be careful about sending traffic. If you're just like, hey, I'm in the opportunity business and I'm going to try this headline and this AI thing, that AI thing, and this crypto thing, and then I'm going to start this, and whichever one works really well, that's what I'm going to scale. Then, because spending money on traffic just gives you faster data, essentially. Lead Falcon is being integrated. They're all being integrated. Lead Falcon is essentially the future of CRMs. So not to get off on a tangent here, but CRMs essentially allow you to organize your leads, send emails, send text messages, send voicemails, and do calls. That's essentially all it does. And all of the different things that are associated with that is important, but a CRM by itself, that's essentially what it does. And what Lead Falcon does is it allows you that to happen on a one-on-one rather than having to be this advanced copywriter with broadcasts and all of these then statements. Lead Falcon is just much better at that. So it's definitely being integrated. UVP is focusing on a very specific audience in the market, thus making our interface specific to their needs, yeah, which results our product fundamentally being different. Yeah, you always need a UVP. The easiest way, I would say 90% of companies in the world have the same UVP. What do you guys think that is? That's an interesting trivia. What do you think the unique value proposition of 90% of companies in the world is? Most companies just have one, which is why you don't really know about them. Most companies you don't know. Think about this. Most companies, if you just line up every single company in the world, let's say there's 100 million companies. How many of them could you name? Maybe 500 max, probably. So what are the other 99 million companies? How do they exist? What's their competitive edge? And if they have a competitive edge, why do they exist? And you don't know about them. This is an interesting thought experiment. Most are service oriented, yeah. But that's not a UVP, that's just like that's like a category. It's location, meaning that their unique value proposition is close to you. That's usually it. Like the local dentist, the car wash on my way to work, the pizza place that's in my town. That's usually most companies, that's really their competitive edge. Now, if they want to stay in business for a long time, they'll have some other competitive edge, or they're the fastest, or they're the cheapest, or they have good customer support, or whatever. They always have some unique value proposition, but most of the time it's just local. And you see this if you go abroad, for example. I lived in Egypt for a couple of years. So you go to Cairo, you just walk around and it's just some family that owns some random business. And that's why it's existing. And they're not doing anything special. They're just there in that location. Apps in the animal market, and that is a passion of mine. Yeah, yeah. For example, let's say you're like, there's this problem with animals and I'm gonna fix it. Then what Joey was saying, you can send some traffic to it, but if it's not, you send $500 of traffic and it's $10 an email and you're like, that's too much. The economics are not going to work. It's not going to work. That's not necessarily true. That just means that right off the bat, your first headline and your first landing page wasn't perfect. Or maybe you're not articulating the problem in the way that you think. It doesn't mean that you should quit, but it is a data point. And if you're looking for, I'm just going to test something until I find something that's in digital marketing, we say it's like butter, or it's like just easy, it just sells itself, then pick something that's easy. And by that means test like 10 different things and whichever one sells the best, that's the one you go. Unless you're raising money, also your CPA is probably going to be higher than your cash flow your first month. So in that case, you want to have a higher ticket back end. Like a lot of times people, even if it's so easy, you wouldn't believe how easy is not easy enough for most people. So I like to do onboarding calls with everyone when I'm launching a company for the first 6 months. I'll just like aggressively talk to everyone that I possibly can in the first 6 months. But even then, there's got to be some service version that's more expensive, or people could buy a year in advance, or you can do it. But if you want to scale fast, usually in software, you're going to lose money for a couple months. Which I've talked about this before, but your cost per acquiring customer, let's say it's $100, and then your average order value for your first cash on hand, even if you have an aggressive funnel, maybe it's 50 to $70. So you're going to lose $30 to $40. So how do you mind that gap? You either mind it with more expensive products on the back end or you raise money. That's really it. It's not necessarily, I'm not saying you should do enterprise, or I'm just saying that if you want to scale, you're going to lose money for a couple months. So how are you going to pay for that? Either you raise money or you sell something that's more expensive. There's really only two options. Or unless you're some big influencer or something and you can get thousands of people to buy with like Instagram or something, then your cost of acquiring a customer is nothing. Then that's great. But if you're trying to scale with paid ads, it's difficult. So in a year ago, before AEO funnels existed, the main options were for like one-click upsells inside of a funnel is really go high level and ClickFunnels. There's a couple of competitors, but you could use Shopify and Zipify combined, or you could use, yeah, there's a couple different options. But anyways, go high level, they only allow you to have two upsells in the funnel, whereas ClickFunnels allows you to have more. So that's really the reason. And then Famous, we're figuring out how to code it inside of Famous, but we're transitioning. Cool. All right. Good to see you guys. We'll have this up soon. Cheers, guys. Bye-bye.